Mega Ran, we're on. How are you today?
I'm good, Chris. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for jumping on the Heart Dealer podcast. Uh, I want to talk about music, creation, fatherhood, promotion and marketing because you do a lot of that stuff. But let's start with something fun because as soon as I saw the Sega logo behind you, I was like, oh my God, I remember this commercial. Speaking of creation or promotion and marketing, I remember a Sega commercial where it was like
Mm,
on an airplane and this lady's coming by with a coffee cart and she goes
mm.
to the one of the guys, coffee, tea, Sega. And that was it. And for some reason that stuck in my head for like 30 years.
I don't know if I remember that one, but that's amazing. Coffee, tea, Sega.
That's all it was. I don't even remember
Brilliant.
which game it was for.
That's brilliant. Yeah, those commercials were wild back then. Yeah, it was just about getting you to, think about Sega. So, yeah, like fitting it into your everyday life, I think is that was good. That's good.
Talk to me about video games. I know it's a huge part of like what you're doing, and we don't need to go into the full thing of the music now. But like, where did you learn video games? Were you just a kid, and which platform were you on?
Oh man. Yeah, I think the arcade probably did it for me. Whenever my mom would go to a place like go shopping, she would just send me off to the local arcade. Like there was always one, the laundromat or the pizza place had a couple games. She'd give me $2 or $3. Go play games, and that's it. It was Pac-Man, it was Mario, it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles later on, The Simpsons, things like that. But whatever there was there, I would play it. Like I'd just be stuck in front of these games constantly. And then when games came home with Atari and things like that, my love just continued. I remember getting Atari 2600 for my for Christmas, and just playing Pac-Man and Yar's Revenge and Space Invaders, things like that. And later on, I think just the music of games is what really intrigued me. But more than anything, it was just the sound. It was the music. Like, oh, how does this work? How does this happen? And moving up into the Nintendo Entertainment System, and then the advent of Blockbuster Video becoming a big thing where we could you could rent a game for the weekend, and if you were good at a game, you could beat a game in a weekend. But at least you could get a full feel of the game in that weekend, and then you take it back and get another one, and take it back and get another one. So weekend rentals were just such a huge thing, and I would record like with my VCR. I'd tape myself playing the games, just so I could remember. Like, oh, I'll just record myself playing the game, and in that process, I'd sometimes record over my mom's like movies or soap operas or things by accident, and uh, and then the music is what got me. So I just would go back and hear this music from a lot of games. Like I remember Mario being a thing, then later Sonic. Like game music just really became such a cool part of my life where I wanted more and more of this. And before they were selling soundtracks, you couldn't buy the soundtracks back then. I would just sit my little kid recorder in front of the TV and just record these soundtracks. And then on the B side of my tapes would be like my hip hop or whatever mixes that I heard on the radio. So I would just flip back and forth with the auto reverse
Yeah.
function on the Walkman. And, I'd have hip hop and then I'd have game music. And then fast forward all these years, it became kind of my thing to try to combine hip hop with game music. And so yeah, that was kind of where my path started, like way back in the like probably late '80s, early '90s.
That's cool. It sounds like similar time frame for me. I remember, going to bowling alleys, and bowling alleys for whatever reason always had like arcades, and falling in love with Rampage. I don't know if you remember that game.
Yes, I remember Rampage.
I don't know why Rampage just like I really loved it. And then my parents were always trying to instill in my brother and I this idea of, respecting the dollar. So like when we wanted a Nintendo, they're like, no, we're not getting you a Nintendo. Just because everyone else at your school has it, you're going to get something else. And I ended up
Mm.
with a Sega Master System. And
Oh,
then eventually Sega Genesis. So, Wonder
nice.
Boy and Altered Beast, like those were the soundtracks to
Yeah.
my youth as well.
Oh man, so good. Yeah, Sega. I didn't know a lot of people who had the Sega Master System. My cousin Howie, I gotta thank him. He was my biggest exposure to video games. Like he would get everything. And so when I'd go stay with him on the weekends, he'd have a new game every time I got there. I'm like, oh man. they have a Rocky game on the Sega Master System, or some other game, Hang On, where you're
Uh,
on the motorcycle, and games like that that weren't on the Nintendo. So I was able to play a little bit more of that. So between that and pro wrestling and hip hop, like these were all his things. So every Saturday, video games, pro wrestling, and then he'd play me some new hip hop, some new music. So all the things that I really loved came from those weekend trips to my cousin's house.
that's awesome. I was also renting systems. I love the idea, the concept, like when we're in our teens or even younger, that you could go to the local video store and come home with that crazy like briefcase with
Oh,
the
the
system in it,
briefcase.
set it up, and then like next week you're like, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna do the Sega this one. I'm gonna do like the Nintendo next time around.
Hmm. Hmm.
If
I remember that, man. The briefcase, you brought me back. Like if you came home with that briefcase, like everyone knew, like, oh, you got the Nintendo this week. You got the 64. I remember the first time seeing that was the Nintendo 64, and that was such a big moment to be able to like rent it and take it home.
it's funny, these things are not only important in our lives and like culturally, like they direct some of the stuff that we're into or inform our tastes, but I feel like there's also so many like learning lessons. This is going to sound ridiculous, but when I started university, I left Europe. I went to Rhode Island. I was there on a partial baseball scholarship, and I'm 18 years old. I'm just getting going and never been to the US before, or at least not by myself. And these two guys, Chris Shepard and Esteban, I befriended, and we're having beers, we're hanging out, and they're like, Bond, Goldeneye, this is where it's at. And they were
Yeah.
already so good, like all the cheat codes, they like were going through each level. And I was just getting destroyed. They would be odd job, and I'd have like my health all the way up, and they would just destroy me
Odd
until
Job was definitely the cheat code, though.
yeah,
He was
it
so
definitely
small,
was.
so he was able to sneak in. That was my college life too. But go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say they destroyed me until I got to that point where that first time I beat them, and they're like, "Oh, what's happening right now?" And I
Mm,
realized that unless you play against the best, unless you lose a million times, you're not going to get to be much better. Now, I didn't go on to have a video game life. However,
mhm.
that was such an important learning lesson where I was like, okay, no matter what I do, even if I'm like the worst and I'm getting annihilated, I just got to keep going. And eventually, there's a chance that I'll beat everyone.
Absolutely. I used to do that with fighting games like Street Fighter and all that. And now, like, that's funny. 2 weeks ago, I was in Vegas for Evo, which is like the biggest fighting game tournament in the world, where they get the best players from all over the world and they compete for like huge money and prizes. And I've played against people who were like competitors, who were like, nationally ranked and worldwide ranked. And I'm like, play me again, like they'll destroy me. And I'm like, come on, one more, like, And I figure for them, it's probably getting boring because they're beating me
Yeah.
over and over again. But I'm like, no, 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 like I'm learning, I'm getting better. Like just keep giving it to me. Like just come on, let's play again. And so yeah, it's the same thing. You have to compete against the best. There's an old saying from Ric Flair. He said, "To be the man, you got to beat the man."
That's true.
Like
True.
you gotta go after the best.
Mess with the best, die right like the rest. So that from Hackers.
Yes.
Let's go back in time because you've got a really cool story, and I'm sure you've talked about this many times before. But I really like to focus on the how that led to the thing. You were a teacher before your
Yes.
teaching career changed and you went into all that other stuff, which we'll talk about. But like, what got you into teaching in the first place? Like
Mm.
I believe, I don't know if you were born or raised in Philadelphia, but you were in Philly before you
Mhm.
relocated to Phoenix. Like,
Yeah.
talk to me about, little Megaran. Where did
Yeah.
he start and how did he become a teacher?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Philadelphia. I was always kind of a bright kid who just was very curious, always getting into things, always eager to learn more. And throughout life, I remember people just saying like, "You'd make a good teacher. Like you're very patient. You're very kind. You're willing to teach people new things." And so I think I was in college, kind of just floating around. Didn't really have a plan. I was just wasting time and wasting my mom's money, just taking classes because that's what they tell you to do. And it was my sociology class, and my professor was telling me, like, I think you make a really good teacher. Like, are you on track? Are you working toward that? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just taking classes. And he's like, well, yeah, I think you should look into it. But I was about to graduate by that time. I didn't really have a plan. I was just gonna, I don't know, I was just gonna be a career student probably, and then just figure it out along the way. And here I was, like junior year, still with no plan. And he's like, well, it may be too late to change your entire track to like an education major, but I know this organization that is looking for teachers, to teach in the inner city, called Teach for America, which they later changed. They had a subsidiary called Teach Philadelphia specifically, where you could come once you came out of school, if you had a bachelor's in any subject, you could get emergency certification because they needed teachers so bad, specifically like male teachers, teachers who were from the city, from the area. There was a huge need for teachers, and so they had a need, I had a want, and so I said, okay, let's give it a go. And they bring you into this intense summertime training course, and then once that's done, they send you to an area of need, which means you're going to be kind of in a rough neighborhood, maybe a rough area with some behavioral kind of issues, but it's going to be, a very fulfilling moment. You'll get a mentor, you'll get to learn on the fly. And yeah, they just drop you in. It's like getting dropped into the war zone. It's like, you remember that game Contra?
Oh yeah.
Everything is a game for me. So Contra, it starts off with a helicopter, and then you come out, you drop down, and then it's a war, and that's kind of what it was. And I'm looking back like, hey, where's my like supply drops or like some help or anything? And they're like, sorry, man, we're busy, but you're on the you go, you got this, go. And so you're literally in the middle of the war zone, just figuring it out on the fly. I get into a classroom and they're like, you're going to substitute teach, but don't worry, every teacher is required by law, once if they have to take some time off, to keep emergency plans. So there should be emergency plans in every classroom. There was never emergency plans in any classroom I've ever went to. And when you get there, you ask the students, is the worst thing you can do. You ask the kids, hey, what are you guys learning this week? Like, what's going on? And this is middle school. So they're seventh, eighth grade, 13, 14. And they're like, nothing, nothing. We're not really doing anything. Our teacher's just hanging out. And I'm like, great. So I had no idea what to do. I'm just dropped in the middle. And thank goodness for mentors and veteran teachers who kind of helped me. But for the most part, you're very much on your own trying to figure this stuff out. And I think that's what overall ultimately made me a better performer.
Mhm.
It's just, as a performer, anybody in the music business, you're going to be very flexible. You're going to have to be, like you could walk into any situation at any time, and things aren't quite what you planned for them to be. So yeah, just being ready for anything, I think, is when I initially learned that was teaching. Teaching in the inner city of Philly, and just figuring it out as I went. It kind of made me a better teacher, which then made me a better performer.
That's amazing. Learned how to be adaptable and then applied it to the art and the career in general.
Hmm.
So were you a sociology major?
No, at that time I was gosh, what was my major? I changed it like twice. I was journalism, and then I was English. By the time I graduated, I was an English major with a African studies minor.
Okay.
And so yeah, that required a sociology, a couple sociology intro courses. So yeah, I moved all over the place just trying to figure it out.
I did too. That's why I'm asking. I think I changed my major like 3 or 4 times and eventually
So,
did a sociology major with a philosophy minor. Did some like women in religion courses. Like I don't know. It was kind of all over. I did a thesis on Haitian voodoo, women in Haitian voodoo, which was like eye opening, that religion and how they grieve and all that fun stuff. But
whoa.
I thought we were going to bond over being sociology buddies.
Oh, sorry about that. But no, I had two great sociology classes though, which like I feel like those were probably the most important classes I took in school. So I don't remember a whole lot from college, but sociology though, I was there every day, sitting up, answering questions. Like I was really, really interested. I probably should have been my major now that I think about it, because it definitely interested me. Speaking of though, Haitian voodoo, do you ever see a movie called The Serpent and the Rainbow?
No, I have to write that down now.
It's from like the early '90s, man. Like so, it was probably around that came out probably right before the time you were working on this this thesis. But yeah, it's really old, but it was really like mainstream kind of America's introduction to like Haitian voodoo for sure. And man, it was something, man. It got intense. And that's all I remember is watching it being like, whoa, like I'm getting like I'm gonna have nightmares. But it was really good.
I'll check it out.
Serpent
Serpent and
and
the
the
Rainbow.
Rainbow. Yeah.
The thing that stuck with me the most from that class and from that work was the grieving process, how they dove into it, and I think that informed a lot of who I am today. I'm very real when it comes to emotions. I really don't care about sharing my vulnerabilities or mess ups as a human being. And they, when they lost someone, just let it out. They grieved hard. They grieved fast. They didn't tiptoe around the tragedy. They didn't tiptoe around the casket, so to speak. It was just like, this happened. Let's get through it together and let's come out the other side.
Hmm.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Um, Teacher, rapper, podcast host, DJ, author, father. What am I missing? Spiritual guide.
Ha, spiritual guide, mentor for sure. I do get to mentor a lot of younger artists. I've been doing this thing in a very unique niche for a long time,
Mhm.
and so the path that I kind of walk is one that really didn't exist prior to me. So we're just kind of figuring it out as we go. But I try to make sure that kids who come up like after me have an idea, and a way to
Yeah.
go that they can follow the footsteps a little bit, And but yeah, I had no idea. There was no person I could look towards like, oh, this is the pop culture hip hop, podcast, guy
Yeah.
who plays comic cons as well as, tours, does concerts. Like there was none of that, in the early aughts. And so being able to kind of come up with, let's say, like the boom of comic book culture kind of in America, with the comic book movies really popping off around kind of the same time that I did. So it just kind of happened to be at a really good time. And so pop culture and music started to kind of connect in different ways, or at least were able to be connected in ways that people didn't kind of think about it. So now it's been a really interesting journey, and so now I get to kind of talk to the younger kids about it, where they're like, "Oh man, well I really like Spider-Man, but I also like singing songs. Like, can I sing a song about Spider-Man?" You're like, "Well, yes, you can, and you might actually reach an audience that really loves your singing and loves Spider-Man, And who knows, a producer from the show might see this and want to hire you at some point. So, it's a really interesting world with the internet that we're able to make connections that seemed so distant, back in the day, like especially in hip hop, like hip hop being so young, it just turned 50. And so hip hop's, I guess that was 2 years ago. So yeah, hip hop now being 52. If you didn't live in New York or Los Angeles, you just couldn't make it, like you just didn't make it. And that's just what it was, and it was a very interesting thing where, you had to know a person and you had to live in an area where hip hop lived and where hip hop was being supported and nurtured. And if you were in Nebraska, then you were just screwed. You could have been the greatest rapper of all time. You could have been Eminem, but if you didn't live close enough or make a connection with someone in a bigger market, you just would never be heard.
Mm.
But today, that isn't the case. Now it does not matter where you live. It doesn't matter where you're from, and I think that's so amazing.
I agree. You're taking me back so much to my youth, and a lot of people, even my close friends, don't know this. Like, I was actually into hip hop and rap before I got into rock and metal, and rock and metal is a huge part of who I am and what I do. But like
Nice.
late '80s in Canada, Dream Warriors were pretty big. I think I fell in love with
Mm,
Fushnikins and Public Enemy, and like Shaq Fu
mm,
was around that time, and
yes.
there was just so much happening. And then one day my mom came home from an event and she was like, "You got to check these guys out." I'm like, "Oh, it's rock here." No, but seriously, like everyone's talking about them and it's not quite rock. And they got a bit of a like rap vibe to them. Turns out that was Red
Mm,
Hot Chili Peppers. And that was
wow.
for me like this really cool transition from hip hop to appreciating rock. And then alternative
Nice.
and grunge happened and all that stuff. And the rest is history, so to
Nice.
speak. Uh, but you're right. Like if I didn't have people bringing stuff home to me, or if we didn't have the recording, of stuff on the radio and the cassettes and the tape trading, there's so much stuff I wouldn't have discovered, and all of that informed my tastes later on.
Yeah, absolutely. College for me was that, just being roommates with someone from a different place and living next door to a person from a different region,
Yep.
and them bringing me, whenever they went home, oh, I got a tape from my friend and I just heard this and check this out. And so yeah, college definitely helped to inform my taste because I was being introduced to so many things from my roommates or my roommates' friends who were just bringing new stuff to the campus constantly. And then the advent of, Napster and LimeWire and all that stuff, and just being able to like go and find whatever you want. And then in the process of trying to find a thing, you find something else you love. And
Yeah.
so it was just a great time for discovery for sure.
And now you just turn on a Spotify playlist and it's like hit random and you hear it all.
Yeah, yes. I literally open Spotify and it tells me, it's like, hey man, here's something you're gonna like, you know, and that's it. We don't have the fun of digging anymore, and I do really love and miss that. Where we were able to just kind of dig for something, and you come to school and be like, I bet you never heard this,
Yeah.
and then you can play them a tape and blow their mind. So yeah, we don't really have that anymore.
That's the goal that I have with the magazine is to have this amazing mixtape of content, not just music, but content where like you can hit the homepage and we're talking about like Toronto's latest R&B show or a black metal artist from Iceland, but also mental health tips or an interview with this really cool author that just wrote a book on I don't know, holograms or something else, you know what I mean? Like it's fun to
Hmm.
be able to see different interesting content and try to mesh it all together, which is a lot of what you're doing. Do you have a is there like a is there one part of you that is the most important, or is it equal parts comic books, video games, music, teaching? Talk about not I know
Well,
the mixture, but like what informs the mixture?
well, I feel like the most important part now is like the fatherhood aspect, just
Mm,
being a dad, and I'm a pretty new dad. And my kid, he's about to be 4, and the path that we went through to get here, we adopted, and so it was a really cool story that now is a part of my story. So it's added on this new extension of me, So now I'm making children's music or family music, as they call it, and being able to reach families and having fathers and mothers come to me now, like, oh man, I played this song for my kids and they love it, or I do shows now and they're all ages and kids are coming and it's like, well, this is that kid's first ever show, and it's like, man, my music gets to grow with them and I get to grow with them as well. So it's a really cool thing. It feels like a second life, and that's the most exciting part of this whole thing is the most recent part of the journey where now fatherhood has crept in. I haven't found a way to combine them all like in one album or song. Like if I can, it's gonna blow minds. If I'm ever able to take every piece of me. Now I kind of write in concepts where I'm like, okay, this album is going to be about a video game. This album is going to be about wrestling. This album is going to be about fatherhood. I haven't been able to put them all into one cohesive project yet. But when I do, like I think it's gonna be like my piece de resistance. It's gonna be the thing that I'm like the most proud of for sure. But I like now just giving a little pieces of everything, and within different projects. So it's like, oh, if you want that thing, you need something for dads, here you go. You need something for gamers, here you go. You need something for life lessons, here you go.
yeah.
So I like to keep it kind of separate. But one day I'm gonna just combine them all and just give it to you in one neat package of 10 songs.
I think that it's going to naturally flow out of you. You know, whatever that
Yeah.
evolution is, it's gonna happen organically, similar to how I think this new chapter happened. Or you became a foster parent, and then all of a sudden you started to look at life differently, and then it informed that new form of creation. Is that accurate?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's kind of how it happened. We were playing music for him, and I was like, oh man, like he wants, and not to say that my music wasn't like kid friendly,
Yeah.
but I felt like, well, I can make music that can inform him as well as educate him. Like, I have that power. And so I sat down and just started working on songs that were reflective of conversations him and I had, or things that he enjoys, and just worked on that and trying to make an album that would like grow up with him. And so that's been my part of my journey, and it's been really fulfilling.
it's fun to be able to. I have kids of my own. I have two of my own, technically three, but unfortunately, I lost one earlier this year, and my
Mm.
girlfriend has two. So our house is very busy with a lot of
Oh
kids
yeah.
running around, and it's just so fun to be able to watch them learn and grow, but also instill in them some of those values and hobbies that you had when you were a kid.
Yeah, for sure. And I try not to force it, but like we'll watch some shows and we get a little bit of TV time and he sees something interesting. He's like, "Oh, what's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles." And I'm like really excited that he's curious about it, like I didn't force it on him, but he saw it and it looked cool. He's like, "Oh, I want to watch Ninja Turtles, Dad." And I'm like, "Yes." So that's really exciting to me. Like I'm a gamer and like he's 4, so he hasn't really gotten to gaming yet, but I feel like he's gotten close. He picks up some games and he's really into them. Anything about firefighters and things like that. So if I can find games that kind of reflect that, he's all about it. Or dinosaurs or something like that. So yeah, it's been really fun. And the idea of the I can't wait till the moment where we can actually like have conversations about like
Yes.
his favorite music. You know what I mean? Where he's like, Dad, I don't really like the chord progression there. Like that wasn't really my thing. Like I can't wait till I can have like in depth music combos about. It's like that bridge was a little too long. Maybe you should shorten that. Like that's what I really look forward to.
Same. Despite me trying to put on rock and rap and all the cool things that I grew up on, jazz, blues, whatever it is, the kids will still come home after hanging with their mom for a few days and say, "Hey, we want to listen to Taylor Swift all day long." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh man,
Yeah. You're like, oh man.
no shade to her." Uh,
That's hilarious.
ABCs of rap, ABCs of rock, and ABCs of skateboarding. These are these little books that I got for the kids when they're growing up. They were so
Oh,
cool, and I thought of you and vice versa with those books because you're creating like cool stuff for kids. That's not just your
mm,
standard. Uh, I don't want to use the word boring because I'm not trying to at anyone, but just it's not normal. It's
mm,
it's content that we as nerds
yeah.
grew up loving, and I love that you're doing
Mm.
that. You're perpetuating that for the youth.
I've had people tell me that too. Like, oh man, it's not like all the rest of the kids stuff I hear. Like, it's just, we're trying to find the right words to say. And I even got myself in a little trouble early on, just being like, I thought some of the kids' music that my kid wanted to hear, I thought it was not good. I just thought it stunk.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, that was like an article that I did on with the newspaper out here, and they were like, Megaran says kids' music sucks, but he's gonna fix it. And I'm like, whoa, 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 like I don't know if I said that. Like maybe I did, but I don't know. Definitely didn't want that to be the headline, but yeah. So it's like, yes, I am critical of the music that he hears, and I would like for it to be a little, maybe a little more, have a little more meat to it,
Mm.
and so, but a lot of the kids' music that attracts them at that age is like fire truck, fire. It's just
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
very simple, repetitive thing. And it's like, well, yeah, like fire trucks are interesting, but let's talk about why they're interesting.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And so if I did a song like that, I would make sure, just a teacher in me, I think it's like, I enjoy any time that I get to educate. So I did a song, "The Story of Rap," which is based on one of the books he had, which is,
mhm.
it wasn't an ABCs of rap, but it was like the history of rap.
Okay.
And so he really enjoyed it, and so we took kind of a classic, one of the maybe not more popular, but just like a nursery rhyme kind of vibe, and then created a song about the beginnings of hip hop and how it started and where it went, and then having like a catchy little in between like refrain that it comes back to where it just says boom bap, boom boom bap, boom, and now he's like, "Daddy, I want to hear boom bap." And so now he's able to keep up with it, but I'm also telling a story that keeps progressing with how hip hop became like this worldwide,
Yeah.
accepted genre, and how it didn't necessarily start like that. And so anytime I get an opportunity to teach, I enjoy it. So because I really do miss the classroom. Just my schedule now is just too crazy for me to do it as much as I'd like. But I do get a chance to once in a while to mentor and go back, for like assemblies and fun things like that. But yeah, it kind of keeps you young, being able to speak to the youth, you know.
100%. I mean, there's probably a truth to it keeping us connected to our youth at the same time, right? When you kidify the content that we grew up on, I remember
Mm.
when my kids were babies and I would like look for nursery rhymes, and then I discovered that, oh my God, they have Nirvana, like nursery rhyme versions of Nirvana. Like I could put on the entire album and in the background be singing it, but it was suitable
Yes.
for a 6 month old. And now they have all
Hmm.
kinds of stuff that's coming out like that. There's like chill hop Tupac albums, which is
Yeah,
like
yeah, it's
they're so
pretty
dang
crazy. And it's good stuff. Like that's what surprises me. Like, oh, this stuff is actually done well. Someone was telling me about lullabies now. Like they're
yep,
doing lullabies of some of the stuff that we loved as lullabies, and it's like, what? You know,
yeah.
it's really cool.
Why don't we move on to some other fun stuff? So, like I read that a lot of what you do is powered by positivity, kindness, togetherness, which is so part and parcel with you being a teacher and wanting to help and whatnot. Where do you find your love? Where do you find your positivity? How do you bring that to your work and then outwards to the world?
Hmm. Wow. Where do I find it? I mean, it's really hard these days, maybe harder than ever, to kind of pick up positivity in the world, from news or other places. But luckily, I have a village of people around me, artists, friends, mentors, his like aunties and uncles, that continue to pour into me and into him as well, that just give us love and support. And so the village is where you find it. It's like you can look for it out in the world, but if you don't get it, you got to get it from the people that are close to you. And so it comes with part of having the strength to lean on them, when you do need them, and I think that that's something I had to learn over years, maybe during pandemic, especially just kind of like, you know, us as men being like, oh, well, asking for help is a sign of like weakness and having to
Mhm.
fight through that. And then understanding that, no, actually reaching out is a sign of strength,
Agreed.
like knowing that you need help, knowing that you could use some assistance is a true sign of strength. And so learning that, and then thinking, at least for me, I'm an only child, so I always felt like, you got to depend on yourself. Like no one's gonna be there for you. And if they do, they're not gonna really mean it, or like they're gonna let you down. Like I was always thinking like that. And then when you're pleasantly surprised, or you realize, oh man, these people are here for you. I think that's when you really take the real lessons that you can apply in life, is like, oh man, like depend on your village, like lean on your village,
Yep.
be dependable at the same time. And so that's really what I learned. And I think that's where my kind of strength and positivity comes from, is just being lucky enough to have 5 or 10 really good friends that I can just, contact whenever I need something, or can tell me a joke when I need it, or things like that. But I'm used to being the strong friend, you know what I mean? The guy who everyone leans on, but I think the true strength comes in being able to lean back and say, hey, I need you guys as well.
Yeah. The irony
Hmm.
is, being the strong friend, you more than anyone else probably needs to get that help, right? Because you're going to spend a lot of
Hmm.
time emptying your can or your gas can on helping others, but you need to make sure that that's full for yourself and your
Yeah,
family.
100%, man. That's the hardest thing, especially as a performer too. It's like you give your all to everyone,
Yeah.
but you can't come home and be empty. You know what I mean? Like your family needs it too. Your home needs it too. So yeah, it's a very tough thing to balance for sure. But
I,
but
I think
yeah.
it's important. I remember. I mean, I don't remember when this, like, what year this was, but there was a. Remember, UFC had a reality show. It was like finding the next Ultimate Fighting champion, and they would like
Hmm.
fight, and then eventually they'd get an actual title shot. Not a title shot, sorry, like a shot on one of the shows. There was a
Yeah.
fighter named Ryan Bader who was, I think, a wrestler, and then eventually went into MMA. And he
Hmm.
was like, just jacked and ripped, and he would just pummel people in the ring. But he was always the first person to be like, tearful and grateful and thank the fighters and be humble. And there's no showboating. He was not braggadocious, like really chill. And for me, that was where I was like, that is strength. When someone can
Yes.
destroy other people, but is also so humble that it's just not about that. It's about kindness and love. That is true strength.
100%.
But when you're like that, you still need help from others. You need that
You
village.
absolutely do.
Uh, foster parenting? Is it hard? Is it easy? Is it any different than regular parenting? Not that you know the difference per se, but like talk to me a bit about that. Because all I know is the movie with Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne, Instant Family, and I'm like, oh, that's what it must be like.
Yeah, that's a great movie. They recommended us to watch that as soon as we got into it. They were like, "Please watch this," and it's a great flick. It is, very much like that, Except we had a almost newborn. Our kid came to us at like 6 weeks. You know what I mean? So instantly you're like a baby father, a
Yeah.
baby parent. So it's like it's learning everything at the same time. Like there's no crash course for that because even as we were going through it, they were expecting it to go a different way. Like
Mm.
they ask you, what age you prefer, things like that, and we're like, oh, we would love to have a baby, and they were like, yeah, it's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like they were kind of talking us out of it, and you could set a little age slider, like, all right, what age do you want? And then we would put 0, and they were like, yeah, it's not gonna happen. Maybe you should put that up to like 7 or 8. And we were like, okay, fine. So we put 0 to 7, and they're like, most of the time it's a preteen, things like that. And we're like, we weren't quite ready for that. Like
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily want a teen coming to my house saying, I hate you, I'm running away, So you get all the hard, the horror stories. So yeah, they were like, it's not gonna happen. So we'll see. And then once we get our certification, 2 weeks later, oh, you're not gonna believe this, but here's a 3-week-old baby, and here's
Wow.
another a 4-week-old baby, a 5-week-old baby. Like a lot of the pandemic babies, as they were calling them, were becoming available, and so it just really surprised me, and so we were instantly like, here we go, crash course. Like no one trains you on all the things you need to know about raising a baby, because they're not thinking that's what's going to happen for you. So we're reading books and I'm shaking him, staying up all night, like trying my best to keep him alive. Basically, they just drop this kid off to you and say, good luck,
It's
and you
like the
just kind of
Contra
ride it out.
thing. It's like the Contra thing. Where are my supplies?
It really is. Yeah, yeah. What are my supplies? And literally the lady was like, oh man, I had a box of diapers and I totally forgot it. I left it at the office. Oh well, good luck. Like, yeah, like the one thing she was gonna help me with. She's like, yeah, I have formula too, but I forgot it. Sorry. Anyway, good luck. So we got to make this like huge Target run immediately. It was nuts. But yeah, that's kind of life, and yeah, I do liken it to a video game in that you get dropped, you're at level 0, level
Yep.
1,
Yep.
trying your best to level up, and get skills and you get experience and you get these, and a lot of times you get the experience points from adversity, or from those situations that you think are going to really damage you and wreck you. Those are where you come out with the biggest XP, where you're like, oh man, now I'm ready because I learned the hard way. Like I just almost really like lost a lot, and now I'm understanding that this is serious. And so, yeah, they literally just drop it on you. And fatherhood was like this instant microwave thing. It went from 0 to 100, and they're like, good luck. And they would still check in every couple weeks, but yeah, for the most part we were on our own. And I'm still a touring musician, so I'm still like occasionally having to step out, and my wife's doing it by herself. And yeah, it's we've been literally learning as we go along for 4 years. It's like, you just pick up little pieces of experience along the way and just hope you're doing the best. Gotta do the best you can. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, this expression with kids, right? It takes a village. It takes a
Takes a
village.
village, man. Like that is the most true, but seems so cliched statement, but so true, man. It takes a village. Absolutely. So we think about a lot like, oh, would we move out of here? Like people are like, oh, you should move to LA. You should be in somewhere else. And it's like what keeps us here is our village, our family,
Yeah.
where it's like, man, we got family here, we got friends here, all the aunties and uncles that pour into us when we need it. And so starting over and not having that is, yeah, it's very scary.
I mean, you said he's 4. My question too is why? Where's number 2 and 3? What are you waiting for?
What? Uh Yeah, that's funny. Um, yeah, I don't know about that, man. This is I- you know, I've heard people say that like once they get out of that like baby phase, you start missing that phase again. And so that's when a lot of people say, "All right, let's start over, do it again." I'm not there. No. Like we were not getting any sleep. It was just very difficult. Like I don't need to go back to that. Like I can remember I watched the entire series of The Sopranos on HBO while keeping this baby up, like, oh, you got to feed him every 2 hours, this and that, and sleep when the baby sleeps. And, I'm not sleeping at all. So I'm just watching shows constantly just to stay awake with him. And yeah, that was how I got through that, was watching The Sopranos from start to finish. And man, it was tough. There's a lot of tough nights where no sleep, still going to work, still doing what you got to do. I don't know if I want to do that again. Man, I'll never say never,
Yeah,
but the way I feel right now, I don't need to go do that again with a
that's,
second or a third. Oh man.
it gets easier. Life's preparing you for two.
Yeah, they say that. Everybody says that. Like once you get to that second one, you're like, "Oh, I got this." Like we did it all. We understand now. Because in the beginning, you're extra careful. You're extra
Yeah.
worried. You're extra scared. You're like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna break this baby," and then you realize later, "Oh, they're tough." Like they could handle it. He
By the
does. Like
third
he
one,
can
you're
go
just,
2 seconds of crying. But a third one, you basically juggling them.
yeah.
You can handle it.
I like the video game analogy. I actually had the same realization a few months ago. So I've been through like a really rough couple of years of just life giving it to me,
Mm,
and with all the counseling and therapy I've done and continue to do, I came to realize that life's not happening to me; it's happening for me. And
mm,
I eventually equated it to a video game. I was like, just got to a point where I was like, oh my God, like what more? What more? I need a
mm,
break. And I thought of a video game, when you are playing 30 levels and you're just starting, it seems daunting. You get to level
mm-hmm.
15 and you can crush the first 15 now. That doesn't mean that the next 15 are easy, but you're slowly adding to your arsenal. You're slowly leveling up. You're slowly getting more XP like you said. So it never gets easier. Life never gets easier. You just
Yeah.
get more tools to be able to handle it. And then as it gets harder, you continue to level up and be able to handle more.
Yep. That's how it goes. No, that's a really good analogy. Like, yeah, I think games can prepare you for life in that way. I saw another really good quote. It's gonna be all about how video games prepare you for life. But I saw a quote that says like life is like a video game because you know you're going the right way when enemies appear
Yes.
and when like roadblocks appear. You know what I mean? So you know you're going the right way when you see some more bad guys pop up. You're like, ah, all right, I haven't been here before. Cool. So yes, so the tougher it gets, that's what you're supposed to be doing. Particularly with music for me, like this thing people say like, oh man, you've been reinventing over the past like decade, and it's like, yeah, I just think as a creative, you just want to keep adding more tools to the toolbox,
Yeah.
and when you do that, yes, you're going to see new challenges, and that's how you know you're going the right way. Like I say, if a project doesn't scare you before you put it out, before you get started on it, then it's not for you. It's like it needs to scare you. It needs to be a little scary. So every album I make sure to scare myself a little bit. I did a ska record on this album about dinosaurs attacking the playground, you know, and uh and it was very scary to put together. I'm singing, I'm playing instruments. I got 5 or 6 different people on it. It's 40 tracks in the mix. Like it's just a very difficult song to put together. And then when it comes out, I love it. And now we just heard for the third straight week, it's like number one on Sirius XM. Like it's really getting a lot of burn, a lot of support, and it tells me like, yeah, we were doing the right thing. Like when something is tough, like that's not a sign to just like back off. That's a sign to keep pushing through.
I love
If it's
that.
scary, like, oh, what if people don't like me singing? What if people don't like a rapper dipping into ska? It's like, okay, that's the challenge I needed.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Don't care. Just keep going, right? Just create for creation's sake.
push through.
I had this
Yeah.
vision when we're talking about video games so much that flight simulators for people that become pilots. Maybe video games are life simulators for people like us to learn how to life.
Wow. Huh. How about that? Wow. What if they need to have like a video game university? You know what I mean? Like I spent so much time and money at school. Like a video game university, like where we set up games that are going to prepare you for life. This one's going to prepare you for marriage. This is going to prepare you for babies. This is going to prepare you for the job force. This is going to prepare you for heartbreak. This is going to prepare you for tragedy, you know. And like a game would
Yeah.
be the entire coursework.
I can already see that with like blockchain technology going so fast and ripping, and now AI. It's like our kids one day, 20 years from now, are gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I just graduated from VGU and it's been amazing." And
Yep, yep, 100%. That's
uh,
where it's going. I can totally see it.
I was on your IG this morning. I want to talk about artistry, and marketing. There's
Mm,
You and I both want to help. I want to help so much, and I try to do so in every way possible. I saw on your IG this morning you said that you got to fall in love with the process of making music. I'm a big believer in that. I
mhm,
believe, Rick Rubin, a lot of really smart people talk about this. Forget the outcome, create. And
mhm.
if you are not
Yeah,
creating for creation's sake, you're missing the point. Talk to me
100%.
about falling in love with the making of music or just creating.
Man, the Rick Rubin book helped a lot with that too. His book is great. Um, I kind of discovered it during pandemic because like live performance is such a big part of what I do. Like it's how I pay my bills. It's really my bread and butter.
Mhm.
Like playing shows. I play 120 shows a year, and without that, with the idea that I won't be doing this for a year, kind of creeping over my shoulder, and me thinking, oh my gosh, what is my purpose if I can't high five and hug people after a show
Yeah.
that whose life I've changed, you know, or things like that. Like if I can't do that, then what is the point, you know? And trying to fight through that, and then understanding, and at least coming to an understanding that I gotta love what I make, you know, and
Yeah.
that's the victory is in loving what you did and being so comfortable and proud of that that you feel like that's a victory, you know, whether it reaches 1 or 1 million. And so that's something that I've constantly had to kind of fight with, where I'm like, oh, I'm fighting, I'm chasing these numbers. I'm like, oh, I'm comparing myself to other artists who I feel like I'm on the level with, you know, and it's like, oh man, their post got 1,000 likes and mine got 500. What am I doing wrong? You know, so that part of it has to get out of your mind, and you have to be completely excited, you know, and comfortable and happy with what you created. And if you are, then the process, yeah, that has to be the most fun part,
Mhm.
because the rest of it you can't control. You know what I mean? You just can't control how many people are going to love you, you know, after you make something. But you can control how loud that snare is on this song. And so you should maybe sit down with that and perfect that and get that to a point where you're so happy with it, you know? And so that has, you know, that's during pandemic has been the biggest change in me, is that I don't think about what happens after I release it into the world. You know, of course, I want to give it my best foot and my best effort to make sure that it reaches as many people as possible. But my true victory is in creating something that I love, you know, that makes me either smile or cry or just makes me very satisfied,
Mhm.
you know. And so if you're not in it for that, then you'll have a really rough go at it, because you just can't control how people are going to feel about the stuff you make.
100%. I would be interested in your take. So, we work with a lot of young artists or artists that haven't done much in music before, and we try
Mm-hmm.
to give them as much information and guidance as possible on top of actually like doing a campaign.
Mm.
One of the things that comes up so often is, where creation ends, business starts. What's your opinion on that personal problem that artists have? Problem is the wrong word. Where they have something created and they're desperately trying to be successful with it. How do you focus
Mm.
on the creation and letting it go? And if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And if it doesn't land on
Mm.
people's ears, what's your take?
Well, this man, it's tough, especially for new artists. You know, and even this piece of advice might feel like a little contradictory to that, but like I talk to a lot of young artists too. I'm in a bunch of group chats with younger guys, and I tell them like, but it's still like you still got to be, of course, happy and excited about the thing you created. And if you
Right.
are, then you are in turn going to do everything it needs to be done with it
Right.
to get it to as many people as possible.
Right.
You're going to want to shoot a high quality video. You're going to want to post about it every day. You're going to want to talk to people about it because you love it so much. So starting off the conversation saying you need to post every day. You need to be commenting and responding to your comments and, on Instagram and things like that. And it's like, that sounds like you're chasing the algorithm. But if you're very excited about the thing you made, then you should be very excited about sharing it. You should be very excited about talking to people about it. And so I look at it like everyone in your circle should know that you're making music. Whether they support it or not, that's one thing, but they should know. At least know that you're active, know that you're excited about it because it's really all you can talk about. Otherwise, do something else. That's almost the best way I could explain it because if you're not going to sleep thinking of ideas and waking up thinking of ideas, it might not be for you,
Yeah.
like, and if it is like that with you, if you're thinking about it constantly, then give it more of your time,
Yeah.
which means in turn, if you're on socials, post about it every day, find a new way to talk about it, so yes, you do have to play these algorithm games a little bit, but you'll want to if you're excited about the thing you made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Knowing that today's audience has a shorter attention span and you made a great 5-minute video, well, then now it's time to chop that video into 7 parts and put each part up on your socials to show people how cool it is. You know, so yeah, I think it's just like waiting for people to come and find you is one thing, but when you love what you do and you love what you put out into the world, you're gonna want to share it. You're gonna want to make it known that you're excited about it.
It's beautifully simple. Go all in on yourself, and that's the only way that you can do it. And if you haven't made it yet, keep going. Maybe change what you're doing, see if it's sticking, but don't stop. I had a guest on previously, Chrissy Spratt. She's a fantastic artist based in Ottawa,
Mm.
I believe. She's got quite a few followers online, and we talked about the same concept. And she said, "You got to invest in yourself." There's a lot of artists that say, "I'm not going to spend my own money, and I'm just going to get signed and blah blah blah." If you can't invest in yourself, how can you expect other people to invest in you? You got to go all in on yourself, time, money, everything.
100%. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where other people are investing in you and awaiting a return,
Yeah.
and then you owe a bunch of people, so it's like, how fun is that,
Mm.
where everybody's sitting around with their hand out because you owe them for your success or for whatever has happened for you. So
Yeah.
you must invest in yourself. You got to bet on yourself, like, was the baseball player Pete Rose? I don't know. Did he gamble on himself? He
I
did.
don't know if
He
he gambled
gambled in
himself. I just
baseball.
know he gambled.
He gambled. I'm not sure. Maybe he didn't gamble himself. But you got to bet on yourself. You got to put money, effort, resources behind what you do. And that'll show. And again, that just comes back to the passion. If you're passionate about what you created, you're going to want to put some resources into it. And maybe you will just sit around and be like, well, the label's going to just pay for this and this and that. Maybe. But I think when you really love something, you're going to want to pour your all into it.
Yeah. Let me ask you
Hmm.
this. So that I do believe that there's so much work involved with any major project, whether it's being an artist, a painter, writing a book. You can only do so much, especially because you have to focus on the creation side of things. You got to focus on the artistry as much as you can. Do you have a team? Do you work with people outside of what you do? I know you do a lot of the production and stuff yourself, but what about branding, marketing, publicity?
Oh, yes, yes, I do. When I'm going all in, going part of that situation is usually at the top of the year, I kind of assess what I'm going to put out and how I'm going to put it out and how I can give it my all.
Mm.
And if it's a situation where the finances aren't going to quite line up, like I don't have the money I might want to put into a thing, I wait. I sit back and I save and I wait until I can do it. Or, I crowdfund. I wrote an ebook on crowdfunding. I go to Kickstarter, places like that. And I'm just luckily, my fan base, my supporters, I don't like calling them fans, but my
You're
supporters, my village has been nice enough to want to support and see the thing I'm going to create. So last year it was, oh, I'm going to do another children's album, and it was, luckily we hit like 3 or 4 times the goal, and I was able to use those resources to put into promotions into, high quality art, high quality videos
Mm,
for each, thing. And so we hired a PR for this last album. I don't normally do that, but that's something that I feel like if you want new results, you got to do new things. I do believe in that as well, and that's part of investing in yourself. If someone says, "Hey, this person is great at PR," then that's the person I want to hire for this. So we hired PR. We hired, I have a manager who helps me out. So I have an artist who's, I wouldn't say on retainer, but I feel like he's very much like my guy. So when I need art, I can rely on one gentleman to give me a specific art style, thing that I need. So I keep him, paid and fed, So yes, that would be the team for me. It's just it's PR. I do a lot of the production. I have an engineer who I love and trust, who's nice enough to believe in what I do, that
mm,
gives me a good rate. So but yeah, but also I think when people talk about building your team and things like that, also take care of your team.
yes,
I think that's a huge piece of advice for people. You never want anybody to feel like they're being used or, just not acknowledged. And in hip hop, it's kind of easy. Like in hip hop, everybody wants to shout out. You know what I mean? Like in hip hop, the shout out can sometimes be enough. And it's like, man, if you're proudly broadcasting the person who's helping with production, the person who's helping with everything, that's going to hopefully help to get them more business, which can be
absolutely.
very, very critical. And I've read about different people having assistants, having writers and things, and not crediting them or not shouting them out, and people just being like, man, if I just got the mention, that could change my life. It could change my situation, and a lot of people want to kind of keep the glory to themselves, and then. But nah, I feel like you gotta shout your people out. You gotta give them
Absolutely.
give them love.
You
You
gotta
know.
pay homage, you definitely have to pay homage to the
Hmm.
people that helped you get to where you are, and I believe in passing that love on. It's like the entourage effect. I don't know if you watch that TV show at all, but, like, each of the
Hmm.
characters around the central character started to have a better and better career and rise up because they were able to leverage what the
Hmm.
main friend was doing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely help out. So, it's funny because I watched some of your stuff this morning, and then the algorithm fed me this next thing, which was a guy saying, the idea of the five people that you keep as your closest friends, like you are the average of those five people, or you are the sum of those
Hmm.
five people. He said, I want to take it a step further and say that you are the average of the five people that you consume the most online. So whether that's
Wow.
like, whatever content that is,
Wow.
who are you
Huh.
the average
Interesting.
of?
Ooh. Wow. Okay. I've been reading a ton of audiobooks lately. There's this author named S.A. Cosby, does these awesome books. They're like action adventure that are set in like really interesting locations, like rural southern places and things like that. But very like high intellect, but also high action
Mm,
stuff. Let's see. Gosh, who? Open Mike Eagle is probably one of my favorite musicians. Considered an art rapper. Very avant-garde music stuff. Wrestling. People who talk about wrestling. So there's that. Greg Miller, who does video game coverage and things like that. A guy who encouraged me to kind of bet on myself. He left the
yeah.
giant company IGN to start his own platform. And the Joe Budden podcast, which is
All right.
more just kind of mindless, hip hop and pop culture talk. Yes, those might be my people. I might be the average of that like bubble of people. Mark Maron, I listen to a lot of Mark Maron as well too. So that would be the kind of combination of the people who make up me. But that is a really interesting concept, though.
Yeah, I thought so. I was like, okay, I've got a lot of a lot of things to talk about with my therapist next time.
Yeah, it really makes you look at like, oh God, like I really need some help then. Like, what am I doing? You know? Um, I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, to look at that and you're like, oh wow, is that me? Like,
Yeah.
is the thing, I don't know, do you agree with it? Like, is it the thing that you consume? Is that you? or is that just the thing you like? You know what I mean? Like people like reality TV, and they want to assume that it's not themselves. Like it's not like saying anything about them, but maybe it is. You know?
I think it can go both ways. We talked just before about getting help outside of creating music, who you work with, some of your team there. And I think that's the point is we have these amazing tools. We could have never envisioned that someone would say one day, like, you will have something in your hand and you can get every answer to every question just by asking it.
Hmm.
If you're interested in something, like if you're a musician and you're trying to figure out which publicist to go with or whatever it is, you can start to go online and follow people that talk about that and use those as your five, so to speak, to get
Hmm.
information to inform your decision down the road. So I think it goes
Yes.
both ways. We consume content based on our likes and preferences, but then we can also choose to consume content based on what we're trying to do. Like if you really want to get into investing, you're going to follow certain people and they're going to help inform that part of your life or that direction into your investing.
Wow, that's true. Huh. Very interesting.
All right, well, let's wrap up because I'm sure you got more important things to do than talk to me for another hour.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, this has been one of my more interesting chats, seriously. So we could talk forever. Like, we barely scratched the surface on like music stuff, but there's so much more, like, I'm sure video games and all kinds of stuff we could chat about. But no, I'm enjoying it.
You know what's funny is I don't know if anyone does this. Maybe you and I should start it. Does anyone go online and play video games together, but then do the interview while they're playing the video game?
Huh. You know what? There was a guy that maybe during pandemic, he did it. I don't know how, if he's still doing it anymore. But yeah, there was a guy that was doing that. He was like, "Oh, pick a game and we'll play it together, and then I'll ask you questions while
That's
you do it."
cool.
And it was a cool idea. I don't know if he still does it, but I did it once with him, and it was a lot of fun.
I know you have so much time in your schedule, so we'll just have to figure out how we start doing that.
Oh, so much time. I got nothing to do.
So a couple more, and then we'll wrap. Formerly random, now Mega Ran. What is random? Why did you randomly change your name to Mega Ran? Just give me
Oh
the
man.
short Coles notes.
Well, Random, it began as a comic book character. There's a Marvel Comics character named Random, and he was able to transform into anything, any sort of matter. He was able to transform himself into something, and whenever he needed for a situation, like he transformed himself to a gun or a key to get into a room or whatever. And so he was like a Swiss Army knife, and I wanted to be that in music. Like, oh, I can do anything, you know.
Nice.
And then I realized with the advent of the internet that Random was just not the most Google friendly name at all. You call yourself Random, what's going to come up? Like a literal random search, you know. Um, so calling yourself Random Rapper, and then maybe a random rapper shows up. So it just wasn't easy to find me doing that. And it's around the same time I made an album called Mega Ran. And in
Mm,
that album, it was me, Random, having a dream that I became this video game character, Mega Man. And so the album was called Mega Ran, and it kind of blew up and got viral. And so people then started calling me Mega Ran. They were like, "Oh, you're Mega Ran," you know. And I was like, "Well, that was the name of the album. It wasn't, you know." And so that just became a thing. And so they say the best nicknames aren't really like made; you kind of given them. And so that's what happened. And Mega Ran became who I am. It was for a while. It was a random, AKA Mega Ran. I was like, okay, well, if I want to talk about normal things in a song, I'll be Random. And then if I want to do a video game song, I'll be Mega Ran. I'll have these two identities. And then I realized, like, as an artist with limited budget, it's impossible to maintain two brands, two identities. It's just not possible. So at that point, I was like, okay, I'll just be Mega Ran and just put it all under one umbrella, and everything I do is under that. And yeah, that's how it was. It was just me. The evolution of the name was, and it even started as a comic book character, ironically,
yeah.
but I was making more of a more like a traditional hip hop kind of conscious rap thing, maybe under the like style of like a Mos Def or Common or
Mm,
Talib Kweli or something like that. It was more, hip hop storytelling and socio political stuff. And when I wanted to talk about something that was a little lighter, like video games, comic books, I would use Mega Ran to do that, But then I realized like you can't maintain two identities with the zero budget, And so that was when Mega Ran kind of took over and became who I am.
and then you further complicated it by adding children's content into the mixture.
Yes, yes. No, it's just it's so complicated. If I was starting off today, I'd just use my name. I'd be Raheem Jarbo, and people would be like, "Well, that's an interesting name," and I'm like, "I know," and so it'll stand out. You know what I mean? Like it stands out. Like it's a name that's super easy to Google. It's there, bam. I'm the only one probably, and so I would completely use my real name today if I was making music. But now I'm stuck in this in my alter ego, which is fine. I think it's all right.
I agree. I haven't done this before, but I thought it'd be interesting with you. Don't think, just impulsively. Favorite comic, favorite wrestler, favorite cartoon or adult cartoon, favorite video game. What are the top for you?
Wow. Favorite comic, Spider Man. Favorite wrestler, Macho Man.
Mm,
Favorite video game, Super Mario 3. Wait, what else was there? Was there
I think
another
it
one?
was a cartoon or adult cartoon.
Okay. Favorite cartoon, Voltron.
Oh, Voltron, good pick.
Remember Voltron?
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
Voltron was cool. And they did a remake that was pretty cool too on Netflix. Yeah, adult cartoon would be The Simpsons.
Fair. It's
Yeah.
funny, like you are the summary of so much of these things that influence you as a kid, and you can see that in your art, and it's a beautiful thing. I'm excited to
Thank
see
you.
where the fatherhood and where the professor goes in his journey.
Mm.
When will
Mm.
the professor come back?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, maybe when my kid's in college, who knows? Um, no, I think, it's yeah, like I really never know. Like one project to the next, it's like something sends me a different way. I have concept ideas for like the next two or three albums, but then something will happen in life that completely changes that. So I'm like, well, I thought I was going to write about this, but now this has happened. So I want to write about this. So it's a cool thing about being an artist and not really being tethered to any particular sound. And now, I'm lucky enough that my crew, my village, kind of knows to expect the unexpected or
Yeah,
expect something random from random. You know what I mean? Like something that is not of the norm. So it's really helped out. Where I got people now to tell me, "Man, I don't even have any kids, but I love your children's albums." Like. I don't even play video games, but I love that album about Final Fantasy, and so people have then become attracted to you as the brand, and I feel
yes.
like that's something I tell younger people too, like give a little bit of yourself, because people will care about you way more than they care about your content, you know.
That's full circle back to creating for creation's sake, right? What you said before about falling in love with the process of making music. When you put yourself in it, the irony is that the end result is more likely going to appeal because it's real.
Mm, look at that, full circle.
Full circle.
That's
You did
good.
say you did say one thing that I just really want to touch on because it was so uh, random.
Ah.
Most artists don't have patience. I finished something, I got to
Mm,
get out. I finished a painting, I got to get on the wall. I finished the music, I got to release the album. You said
mm,
I put together a budget, and if it's not ready, if I can't do it properly, I hold off. That blew my mind because most artists won't say that. Like,
mm.
what is in your
And that
head
was tough.
that allows
Yeah,
you to
that was
do that?
tough. um I think just the confidence that I can come up with something else. I think as a creator, you got to believe like your best ideas are ahead of you. And so I can pause an idea because maybe I wasn't ready for it. And in the meantime, I got three other things that I want to do.
Mm,
And so that's what's happening kind of now. Like this children's album is doing so well that I had another idea for an EP that was going to be a video game based EP that was going to come out next month, but I don't want to do it now. Like I don't feel like I have to. So not having to create it or just not having to put it out when it's not ready or when I can't put my full all behind it gives me, a little bit of peace knowing that I can do this later. And so yeah, that came with time. I've been releasing music for 10 years now. So it's like that patience came with time for sure. Like I've always felt like, oh, I gotta put it out, I gotta put it out, I gotta put it out. It's the best thing I ever done. I gotta put it out.
mm,
But now I know, like I've had too many projects or things where I've kind of had a regret about the rollout. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I should have put more time into it. Oh, I should have got PR for this. Oh, I should have waited. I should have shot a video for this song instead of that song. Like the constant, kind of not doubt, but just those revisions. The Monday morning quarterbacking comes to mind, and so now I'm like, all right, I want to make sure I do it right. So that involves patience, and so now I'll hold it back. If I can't give it the all that it deserves, then I'll hold it.
Makes sense. Patience during creation, patience post creation, right?
Mm-mm.
Raheem,
Patience pays.
it does. Raheem, thank you so much for your time and your words. I love this chat, and I'm really pumped to see how things go for you, where things go for you, and hopefully you and I can stay in touch.
Thank you, man. Absolutely. I appreciate it. You had some great questions. You brought out some really good stuff.
Keep well. Talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you, dude.